All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. It's that time of year again. The air gets a little crisper, the leaves start crunching underfoot, and suddenly, boom, pumpkins are glowing on every single doorstep. Everywhere you look, it's this awesome mix of spooky, playful, and magical. But have you ever actually stopped to wonder why we do all of this?
I mean, today it's literally America's second most celebrated holiday of the entire year, right up there after Christmas. Store aisles are absolutely packed with masks and candy. We all get to play pretend and kind of step into the mystery of the dark. But beyond the costumes and the sugar rushes, there is a complicated, really fascinating mystery. Like, is it a Christian holiday? Is it a pagan festival? A lot of people just shrug and say, I don't know, but I love it. Well, the truth is actually this beautiful patchwork of stories woven together over thousands of years. So here's a quick look at the timeline for our journey today. We're going to start 2,000 years ago with the Celtic festival of Samhain, then jump to the 8th century for All Saints' Day. After that, we'll navigate the 16th century witch hunts, explore the 19th century American rebirth, and finally bring it all back to today's global celebration. All right, part 1, the fires of Samhain. Let's rewind the clock back 2 millennia to the ancient Celts. This is way, way before modern trick-or-treating was even a blip on the radar. Before the candy and the glowing pumpkins, there was a night of literal fire and fear. The ancient Celts, living across what is now Ireland, Scotland, and parts of France, celebrated this festival called Samhain. It was a pivotal night for them. Basically, it was their New Year's Eve. It marked this profound shift where the harvest ended, the daylight faded, and the harsh winter began. And crucially, they believed that on this one specific night, the veil, the barrier between the world of the living and the world of the dead, completely vanished. Now, what is absolutely fascinating is how the Celts actually responded to this disappearing veil. They didn't just hide away in the dark. No, they lit these crackling, massive bonfires up on the hillsides. And it wasn't just to keep warm. They believed these fires offered protection from wandering spirits. They'd also leave food out as an offering to their ancestors, kind of a way to invite blessings into the home rather than hauntings. Later on, some writers called them pagans who worshiped the dark, but actually, scratch that, it's not true at all. They did these things to honor the mysterious rhythms of nature. They understood that summer simply had to die so that winter could live. Moving on to part 2, Saints and Soul Cakes. As the centuries rolled by, those ancient fires of Samhain met a massive, game-changing force, the spreading faith of Christianity. So, when Christian missionaries first arrived, they encountered people with incredibly deep-rooted traditions. Initially, the church tried to just replace these old customs, but as you can probably guess, tradition lives way too deep in the soul to just be wiped away. So, instead of destroying the old ways, the church used a strategy called syncretism. Basically, they blended the old pagan fire with Christian sacred cloth. Right around the 8th century, Pope Gregory III moved All Saints' Day to sit right next to Samhain on November 1st. And because of that shift, October 31st became All Hallows' Eve. Over time, people mashed those words together, giving us the name we know today, Halloween. Out of this blending of faiths, a genuinely beautiful tradition emerged. The core of the celebration was still about honoring those who had passed, but it looked different now. Families started baking these simple little pastries called soul cakes, and children would wander from house to house singing this catchy little chant, a soul, a soul, a soul cake, pray you good mistress, a soul cake. This practice was known as souling. And honestly, it wasn't about horror or being scared. It was really about hope and remembrance, a kind of bridge connecting life and death. Which brings us to part 3, shadows and superstitions. Because, well, as time kept marching into the later centuries, the glowing warmth of early Halloween started to cast a much, much darker shadow. Before the real darkness set in, Halloween was still this incredible time of hope and mystery. People loved playing these little matchmaking games. Picture this, families gathering inside a cozy cottage by candlelight, tossing hazelnuts right into the fire. They'd name each nut after someone they loved, and the superstition was that whichever nut burned the brightest belonged to their true heart. It was the season of endings, right? So naturally, people were just desperate to know what was going to begin next. But, yeah, not all the stories from those nights were quite so charming. That innocent magic morphed into intense, real-world fear when the church and powerful political leaders grew paranoid. Suddenly, local women who knew about herbs and healing were being labeled as witches. In the 15th and 16th centuries, terrifying books like the Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches, spread panic across Europe. By 1590, you even had leaders like King James of Scotland claiming women were gathering on October 31st specifically to cast dark spells against him. From that point on, the holiday got permanently branded with images of flying witches and dangerous magic. But here is the really crucial takeaway. Despite all this intense fear of witch hunts and roaming spirits, the everyday people, they still loved the night. They actually needed it. Halloween became this perfect mirror of the human heart. You know, half shadow, half light. There's this old Irish saying that captures it perfectly. On Halloween night, the veil grows thin and the brave grow bold. It was a time to literally laugh right in the face of fear, to dress up as the exact things that terrified them the most, and to just dance with the darkness, even if only for one night. All right, part 4, rebirth in America. Because as those old customs slowly began fading into the background of a modernizing Europe, Halloween really needed a new spark. And it found a massive one across the ocean. During the 19th century, thousands of Irish and Scottish immigrants traveled to America, bringing their memories and traditions right along with them. And the holiday adapted super fast to its new home. See, back in Ireland, they carved turnips. This was based on the old legend of Stingy Jack, a trickster who was doomed to wander the earth with nothing but a hollowed-out turnip and a single burning ember inside it. But in America, they discovered pumpkins. Bright, round, and way easier to carve than a tough little turnip. So that old Irish turnip transformed into the glowing American jack-o'-lantern, this brilliant symbol of warmth meant to keep the ghosts away and draw the neighborhood kids near. The real magic of modern Halloween, though, totally came from the kids. By the 20th century, they took that ancient practice of souling and turned it into the trick-or-treating we all know today. Dressed up as ghosts, fairies, pirates, you name it, they created this incredibly joyful bridge between neighbors who honestly might not even speak to each other the rest of the year. Sharing candy and smiles became this beautiful night of real community connection. And by the 1950s, thanks to TV and movies, this American rebirth went totally global, spreading to places like Japan and weaving into traditions like Mexico's Day of the Dead. And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, Embracing the Dark. Let's zoom out a bit and look at the philosophical heart of why we still desperately need Halloween today, thousands of years after it started. At its core, Halloween gives us absolute permission to face our universal human fears. The philosopher Alan Watts said that fear is simply the shadow of the unknown, and when we turn toward it, we find not terror, but understanding. We all carry fear and hope, right? Shadow and brightness. By taking the very monsters that scare us and turning them into playful costumes, by making the darkness a literal playground for our imaginations, we are actively turning toward that unknown. We find understanding, we find laughter, and we find courage. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's walking right through it with a little bit of light in your hands. It also reminds us of this really profound truth, perfectly captured by the poet Mary Oliver. Life is precious, wild, and short, and the world offers itself to your imagination. Halloween is that one night that taps us on the shoulder and says, hey, pause for a second. Feel the chill in the air, connect with your neighbors, and just let your imagination run completely wild. We celebrate life by acknowledging death and the passage of time. It reminds us that pure joy can literally just be the soft glow of a pumpkin by a front door, or the sound of kids laughing all the way down a quiet autumn street. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to think about. Halloween is so much more than just a night for ghosts and sugar rushes. It's a brilliant testament to what it actually means to be human. To remember, to imagine, and to celebrate life, even when we're staring into the dark. So the next time you see a glowing jack-o'-lantern sitting on a porch, I want you to ask yourself, how will you carry your light into the dark? How will you honor the ancient truth that every single shadow only exists because somewhere close by there is a light?